Good morning. Welcome to Pro Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Craig Doman. I've got a guest today who is a world traveler, author, former world track athlete. He's a father. He's a podcaster. He's a coach. He's a speaker. I might have already said you're an author, but you're an author. So, Coach AK, welcome to Pro Mindset.
Craig, thank you. You
like my energy this morning?
Well, I'm also a bad Scrabble player. So that's in terms of my resume. There's things that I'm not good at.
Okay. Do you play Catan?
Do I play Catan? Not only do I play Catan, but I have the dice set right here. You didn't even know this.
Dude, hey, when we're in the same place at the same time, we're going to go 1v1.
Okay. I'm
good. All right.
Your strategy. I know what to get.
I get when 1v1, baby, all you got to do is get a port. You got a shot. Okay. All right. Coach AK, would you please share with our audience the correct pronunciation of your full name?
Yes. My full name is, I'm first generation Nigerian, but it's Ak Ikwuakor. But I go by AK, but my last name is like Ik and then Walker.
Ikwuakor. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back down memory lane just to Oregon. So you're an Oregon Duck.
I'm a duck.
I have an affinity towards Oregon Ducks with Anthony. And my question to you is, you still have your name on the wall in the track facility at Oregon for setting the school record for what, 4x400?
Yeah, it was a 4x400 relay. So we ran, if anybody knows it, we ran 4 times around the track, 4 guys, and we went 3 flat. It was the first time in school history, beat the school record by 3 seconds. And then we got 3rd place at nationals, and that would actually have ranked us top 10 in the world that year.
That's awesome. Okay. So let's go back to, I want you to put on your athlete hat just for a moment. You wear lots of hats. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a few years ago. So you didn't have the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience and the intelligence that you have today about how to attack performance. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
So when you go back to your 21, 22-year-old self, how did you perform your best in your hurdle event and in your relay event?
Yeah. Well, for me, I wasn't always the best athlete. So actually, when I graduated from high school, I wasn't even ranked top in the country, right? So I want to say it's not like I started off and I was like top in the world, and then I went to a school that was already top in the world. But my first year I went to the University of Colorado, and it was a strong team, but everybody was local. But the next year when I went to Oregon, I had so many people on my team that were top in their state. We also had an idea about we're going to be top in the world. So what I learned about really performance sometimes is your tribe, like who's in your tribe. And they will make you realize, like get you out of your own head to say, hey, every single day, we know how to eat healthy. Every single day, because we're trying to be top in the world, and people that are top in the world don't do these actions. And I must admit, when I wasn't top going there, I had some rough edges that I was trying to navigate through. But every single day, you're getting those habits, those behaviors of your tribe around you on how you need to show up. So going from a kid that was barely recruited to still holding the school record at Oregon today and even competing afterwards had a lot to do with that strong tribe that all wanted to be best in the world. And we had to show up every single day to do that.
Okay, so share with everyone, I would love to know, what's the top 3 things you guys did that separated yourself from everybody else? You got to imagine that, UCLA and everybody else is trying to do the same thing. Yeah. And they've got their tribe, and they've got 5 stars. They've got the best of the best. What was the separator for you guys compared to everybody else?
We could say it's pro and con. One of them would be is train to compete. Meaning that kind, like when we were practicing, we would get on the line and our goal was, I'm not going to let you beat me. I'm not going to let you beat me. We didn't always have race strategy. We just said, nobody's ever going to pass me. So the first one was we had that mindset where it was, we didn't train only for the skill. Like, am I going to be a better hurdler? Am I going to be better at my form? But how do you actually train people to just compete, right? Don't let anybody pass you. So one. Two, it's funny about this is we talk about training, but when I was at training my whole entire life, we would train hard. At Oregon, when we ran our fastest time, it was actually the year that I remember doing so much recovery. It was the year that I think we did so much recovery. There'd be so many times that we would go to practice and the coach would say, okay, just do a few laps and you're done. Like, wait, we can do more. We can do more. It's like, no. Right? We gotta make sure that we take care of that body. We gotta rejuvenate. Right? So the first one is teaching us how to compete. Second one was helping us really identify how to recover. It's not about what you do, but sometimes what you don't do. And the third one had to be that really set us apart. Might have been two. I think it was, it was how to really peak when it mattered. Really peak when it matters. So the difference between just going to the gym every single day is you can be strong, but all of a sudden it's not about being strong on that day. It's, are you strong with track and field, for example? Are you strong on September 16th at 4:03 p.m.? That's when those races started. So we learned about what we need to do to peak on the day that it counts. So if you're in the professional world, it's like, oh my goodness, I was practicing in front of the mirror and I just killed it. But the next day you're in front of, the stakeholders and you bomb it. They're not going to be like, well, yesterday I did amazing. No, it's about how do you peak at the moment that would it matter. So I'll break it down. The things that we learned is we train to compete, we focus on recovery, and then 3 is we understood how to peak when it mattered.
Okay, so I love all those. And Coach, I'm going to share with you my perspective on those. Mm-hmm. Most people don't like to compete. Most coaches don't like to compete. There is a inherent discomfort in the spirit of competition. Mm-hmm. Everybody says they want to compete, but they want to. Have you ever watched a basketball game or a football game or some sport, especially with youth, where they didn't look at the scoreboard?
I have an 11-year-old daughter. I have an 11-year-old daughter who plays soccer. I love her to death. But sometimes if they just understood just the compete part at that level, it would be a night and day difference. Because my daughter would be chasing the ball. Someone else would kind of come in front of her. She's like, oh, no. That's your ball. Get that ball. But if you're competing, you're like, no, my ball is always my ball. Yeah, I pass it, but my goal is I got to get that ball. Whether I'm crawling, sprinting, yeah.
Here's the thing about competing. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. You have to go 10 toes down. You have to jump in head first, not knowing if you're going to be successful. Very few athletes like to be in that situation. They want to be in a dominant position or they want to be in a surrender position. Like, hey, we couldn't beat those guys no matter what we did. Mm-hmm. Okay, those guys are faster than us. They're bigger than us, whatever it was. And then the thing about peak when it matters the most, I've got a book coming out called Unleash Your Inner Pro, and it's about pro mindset. And it's about being your best in your biggest moments. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a business person out there and you get a phone call, you don't know when that phone call's coming. That might be the greatest opportunity you're going to have the whole year. Are you ready? Can you stay ready? Can you be ready? Mm-hmm. And so I see people, especially in the football business, they're a shadow of their self in the big games because it's a big game. So like a Super Bowl, people think it's a different game. It's still the same game. Okay. Same field, same ball. Everything's the same. It's just the consequences of the result of the game are pretty huge. Yeah. But it's still the same game. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. I do a lot of work at Google. So I'm one of the executive sales coach leads, helping them build out their sales coaching arm. And we focus on this a lot because they're about to say, I'm about to go into a meeting I'm talking to this big CEO, CMO. And I said, well, tell us a little bit more. And so what I actually do in that situation, to piggyback on you, is I focus on something called de-hyping. How do we de-hype this situation? Well, yeah, that might be a CEO. What else do you know about them? Okay, well, their father, they live in my same city. So what you're doing is you de-hyping this situation. Same thing with sports. It's the biggest competition. I got to do this. But it's not because of the competition, though, we know. What does the competition mean for them? Hey, I'm not on a scholarship, but maybe if I do this well, I'll be able to get a scholarship so my parents don't have to pay for tuition because it's expensive. Or I don't know what I'm doing after this year. I need some kind of job, but I don't know what it is. So what they're really thinking about is if I cross this finish line, is either that dream that I have or nothing. Right? And so the goal is, sometimes I focus this thing, it puts us into this fight or flight response, this binary system. And the number one way to actually get yourself out of the fight or flight situation that a lot of these survival type mechanisms are, is just add a third option. So the faster you can add a third option, either you win the pitch, you lose the pitch, or you learn what to put into your next pitch. Right. So that's just a mindset kind of hack that I use for people, is just to say, hey, if you ever find yourself in this win-lose situation, add a third option that will reduce your anxiety so you can actually be focused on what really matters.
My perspective, similar but not identical, is if you play your best, you perform your best. Can you do better than that? If you do your absolute best, can you do better than that? No. So if you do your best and it's not a good fit, if you do your best and the other people were better, the other team was better, you learn a lesson, you get better, you get another opportunity to compete, you can't do better than your best.
Yeah.
So my perspective is create a performance bubble that you operate in. You play in that bubble. You work in that bubble. And you get to decide what the boundaries of that bubble are. Mm-hmm. And you don't let anything in that's not for you. And everything that is for you, all the high performance systems you've been through, all your micro habits, all your hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, you bring that in. But you don't bring in anything else. You know, that, hey, your dad said when you were this old that you couldn't do it. Or your boss said it. Mm-hmm. And so that allows you to play free, perform free, think clearly, be in the moment. And if it's meant to be, you win. If you're not meant to be, you may not win. Similar but different. Okay, so you are like Aaron Rodgers. Holy smokes. You go on this dark retreat. Dude, you got to tell me about this dark retreat. Only thing I know is for 5 days. So give everybody why you did it. What were your intentions? What did you think would happen? And then once you got into it, you're having this conversation with yourself most likely the entire time. Mm-hmm. It's you and you.
You and you.
And give me the evolution of that, 120 hours, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of led into that overall experience was I was in a relationship. I had a fiance and I had a little one, right? And I thought, she's my soulmate. Oh, that's going to be amazing. And then 3 months into it, this is like just literally less than a year ago, is she decided this is kind of too tough. I can't do it. And she left with the little one, So for me, this was just like a moment because it was still shock. I was I want it to work. How do we make this work? And so I put myself in that moment as how can I be with myself and by myself, right? To navigate on my own in that situation. So I had some friends that, I said, what should I do? I just got a relationship. What are some ways that I can do some personal, recovery, some work on myself? And so I'll kind of fast forward a few things, but I went to the Sedona to do some healing shamanic work. They told me to try. And then I went to this darkness retreat. But the funny thing is that a lot of this stuff about the darkness retreat, a lot of stuff are connected to the shaman. I was always saying at the end of every single experience was you're going to find the answer in the darkness. Right? So take me to that. I go to the darkness retreat. It's in Mexico, Mazunte, Mexico, right? Southern border. And when people talked about the darkness retreat, I didn't realize in some ways that there was like 4 different experiences. One, it's the moment right before you go into the darkness retreat. Then you have your darkness retreat. And then I did this in Mexico. And then there was an experience that happened in Mexico. And then the 4th one is coming back to the United States. So when you go into the darkness retreat, it might be going for that 5 days, but it is a journey from start to finish. So let's take me real quick to the beginning of.
Let's go to the moment before the moment. What were your intentions? So what were your intentions to figure out how to make this relationship work? Were the intentions to figure out where could I have been different to meet her needs? What was your intention?
Yeah. My intention was like, just let me know what I need to know about this relationship. And then 2, it was, there's something I don't know that I don't know, and reveal it to me. So one was very directive. One was like, there's obviously a block that I have. Let me understand what that is. And some people always said, like, how do you prepare for a darkness retreat? Like, even if you've done yoga at the same time, you still have a lot of hours left to go.
Right.
And so I remember the moment before I had to send out these coaches' emails. I had to send out these emails at Google. And I was like, I don't have enough time. I was like literally panicking. I remember trying to get all the emails in before I had to like go under. I was like, I don't have enough time. So I go in, and the weirdest experience is just when the light gets turned off. Because then you start to think, this is about to be going on for 5 days. And when you open your eyes, you close your eyes. I mean, it is no different. You can't tell the difference. In addition, I didn't want to know what time it was. So I only got 1 meal a day. And you can't hear anything, and you can't see anything. And then one thing is that people don't talk about is also, it's what it is, it's sensory deprivation. Right? It's basically what it is, sensory deprivation. But the darkness retreat has an added sense that's actually missed that a lot of them don't focus on if you do try to do self-work. And that is the expectation from the outside world as well. So for example, when I maybe came onto this podcast, it's like, am I going to wear a red shirt? Am I going to wear a blue shirt? Well, when you're in the darkness retreat, it doesn't matter like what color shirt you have. And it's also, you have no feedback coming in and out. So you also were able to remove your senses and even the expectations and even the outside world. So really what you're going to be in there is just you by yourself, with yourself for an extended period of time. Now, what are some quick fun takeaways? The darkness was actually the easiest part of the whole experience. That was the interest. Like, I thought it was going to be tough. Even the first moment you go to sleep and you wake up for the first night, it's kind of trippy because like, okay, I woke up, but am I actually awake or sleeping? So you're in this dream state. But once you feel like you're in your dream state, your thoughts that you have each and every single day become like movies in your mind. So even though it's dark, you're literally just transporting yourself to different places because your thoughts are so powerful. You know, when you also think about the darkness retreat, it's when you remove it, I think every single day it feels like, we probably feel this in the sports world, where it's almost trying to hear somebody else's voice in the middle of a rock concert. Like, oh, what are you trying to say? What are you saying? But in the darkness retreat, it's like removing all of that. So the only voice that you hear is your own. That own voice. Like, okay, maybe you shouldn't do this. Okay, maybe you should do this. Whatever it is. It's that most authentic voice. And when you're going through that, you're hearing that. And I'm having a conversation with my voice nonstop. I actually have 143 audio recordings that I just had. Not my phone, but just like an old-fashioned tape recorder. And the part that was challenging was not the night, but it was actually time. Time was irrelevant. As a matter of fact, I actually thought at one moment they forgot about me for 2 days. Like 2 days. I was literally knocking on the door. I'm like knocking on the door, like, yo, I'm here, I'm here. And then I was able to find out like what time it actually was past. And I thought it was 60 hours, like 2 days. No, sorry. I thought it was like 2 days, like 48 hours. only 7 hours had passed.
Wow.
I imagine it almost sitting in front in a DMV line for an extended period of time, 5 days, but you don't even have the E on the chart to stare at.
Yeah.
And they're not even calling numbers. So what you learn from that moment is, how can you sit with yourself? And so this is what I would say in terms of the mindset is, physically, nothing's happening. Nobody's coming in, nobody's coming out. You're not in danger. There's no reason to have a fight or flight response. But the hardest part in there is the potential spiraling, meaning the mindset. So if you're a person that says, oh my goodness, I have a stomach ache. No, I might be sick. Oh, because I'm sick. What is going to happen? I don't want to die in here. They'll head out. Right? It's the ones that are be able to control their mindset, because physically, everything's fine. You're in a space by yourself. But are you going to be the one to be able to control your thoughts? Are you going to be the one that is able to stay consistent? Because that is it. You can leave at any time. But the people that leave, or if you're going to leave, is because something happened in that spiral there. They said, I got to go.
Okay, so let me regurgitate back. I was taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the outside's gone. So when the outside's gone, we spend about 98% of our day with the outside. Okay. So that's a big part of our day is gone. Then your thoughts are more powerful. So we have thoughts all the time. We got this running loop of thoughts all the time. But we got to do things. We got to be things. We got to talk to people. We got to achieve. We got to work out. We got to do all these things. But when you're sitting there in the darkness, those thoughts become more powerful. Then you only got one voice, and it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You got no other stimuli. It's your voice. And I find that in those kind of ceremonies, you go to your heart.
Yeah.
And you get out of your head. And you go in your head, and you transcend to your heart. Mm. And that's a whole different conversation with your heart than it is with your head.
Yeah.
And then time doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. Because what you're doing is you're transitioning from doing to being.
Yeah.
You're just being. You're not doing. You're not getting judged. You're not being evaluated.
Right.
You're not performing. And then the last thing you shared with us was, can you exercise self-control? And I that's synonymous for me with, can you love yourself the way you are? Mm-hmm. AK, can you just love you now? Or do you have to do something different? Do you have to have a different title, be with a different person, live in a different neighborhood before you can love yourself? Mm-hmm. And that's a huge test. So now it's back to you. You made 143 voice recordings. Mm-hmm. Did you get your answer from during that time?
Yeah. I got so many answers in that time. And it actually continues to, double down today.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I went in, as we said, because of my relationship. And that's what originally brought me in there. But what ended up happening is I actually had this really strong experience of that you are an unconditioned soul. Just like a baby, when they're in the darkness. And the moment that they start to see the light, the moment they start to get out of the womb is when conditioning starts happening. Who your parents are, what country are you in, what's all that kind of language. You're being conditioned the moment you start to see light. But for me, when going from the darkness into now to the outside world, is like you're also now an unconditioned soul. And you now have a choice of what you want to be conditioned by. You can go out and pick up, go to the club, do all this kind of stuff that you don't want to do. Or you can surround yourself around people that are like into, wellness, into becoming better. And you have a choice about what you want to be conditioned by. So at that moment, I realized that a lot of my conditioning was like, I never wanted to be a person that had, 2 kids with 2 different women. And that's kind of what that situation happened. It wasn't about the relationship. It was about something about my internal thing about like, I didn't want to be what I saw a lot of the athletes when I was growing up being. But I had to face it. I couldn't change it. But when you remove that social stigma, like who cares if that's the case? Who cares if that What does that mean about you? Nothing. And once you remove that social construct, I didn't even have to focus on my girlfriend, that situation. I probably focused on that conversation like 15 minutes in the 120 something hours. You know?
Sounds like to me you went through an identity reset.
It's such an identity reset. And it's such an identity reset because what it really told me at the end, and this is something I think is really powerful for me, was the second step. So I leave the darkness retreat and I'm still in Mexico. And I just said, I just want to talk to someone else. I just need to talk to someone else that's gone through a darkness retreat. And so mind you, I'm still in Mexico. And then my voice kind of says, well, go to the barber. You're looking kind of scruffy. So I get up and I, get in the motorcycle, go to the barbershop. And then I get there and the voice says again, like just this intuition, not like, hello, but like, hear the voice again. And it says, remember, they're not actually at the barbershop. They actually do it at the beach. So I leave and I go to the beach and I'm at the beach. And like I said, I'm still in Mexico. And it says, you're hot. You should get into the water. So I get into the water. I'm literally swimming in the ocean. And there's this guy like 10 feet away from me. And he calls out to me. And he's like, yo, do you speak English? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he says, oh. He's like, I've been in a darkness retreat the last 4 days, and I just want someone to talk to.
Oh, my God. Right? So everybody goes to the water after the darkness retreat.
Yeah, whatever it is, but it's not. But like, it was just me and him in the ocean, and we'd end up talking for like 3 hours. And I'm not like, where I was the only one doing the darkness retreat in my place and where I was. He was somewhere completely. So it's not like this random, like it just happens every Tuesday. But what that taught me was for the next 5 days, I stayed in Mexico. That kept happening over and over and over again, that internal voice. So when I left there, the whole thing about the darkness is that oftentimes we're in the darkness. I'm going to pull it all together, but oftentimes when we're in the darkness, we ask to see the light get turned on. But this says, no. As a matter of fact, it's in the darkness where your voice gets the loudest. That truest voice becomes the loudest. So as I bring this back, what I take away is, AK, trust your intuition. Trust that voice. The takeaway is not about what you need to do in the future. It's about what you need to do in every moment. And be present and listen to that internal voice because it's going to lead you in the right direction. And since then, it's been so many different things that have happened. I literally just was walking by a store yesterday, picked up this random card, this like kind of like tarot card. And it said, and it was a picture of a bat. And the bat represented, and I just said, like, a hunch, I said, just walk into this store that I've never been in before. And it says, the bat represents traveling through the darkness, about trusting that inner voice. So it's letting me know whenever I'm on the wrong track, my voice is there to say, dude, I'm here to get you back on track. I'm here. Just you have to listen to me. But after so long, how much are we pushing it down, getting distracted by media, emails, things that we got to do that you're blinding me out when the best coach, when the best advisor you have is not external.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So what type of shamanic experience did you do in Sedona? Was it ayahuasca? Was it mushrooms? Was it something else?
No, so I've done 2 ayahuasca ceremonies like a few years ago. Very, very profound. And the other one was in Sedona, was 3 shamanic, but it was more something called like a cord cutting. It's kind of saying like, how do you separate from a relationship? So obviously that was about the relationship, like my partner. And then another one was called this medicine wheel circle. And so what it is there's a lot of there's these rocks. And these rocks all have a meaning. And so what it had me do was, the shaman had me do was just walk around the circle. And if at any moment I have a connection to this rock, just talk to it, touch it, have a conversation with it. And the reason why they say the rocks are so powerful is because I know it sounds woo, it's like touching rocks, but they say rocks have been absorbing energy for generations, right? We believe that they're a living being and all the stuff that they're around for all those many years is absorb it. So connect with it. So with this particular medicine wheel, as I was walking around, there were 2 things that happened. And this was before I even decided to do the darkness retreat. The first rock I touched, I was like, okay, I just have a connection with this one, represented a Black Panther. And a Black Panther is about an individual, or a sense that can navigate in the darkness. Right? So I was like, okay, weird. There's like navigate in the darkness. And if I can actually show you, let me see. Yeah, see inside my house a little bit. Where is this? You can see that right there.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
quick question, and this is, more a scientific question.
Yeah.
Why are Black Panthers able to navigate in the darkness? By that picture you just showed me on the wall, it's got to be their eyesight. It's got to be their eyes.
Yeah. Well, that one I do not know. We'll chat GPT that one. But no, I would say it is the funny thing, when you were in the darkness retreat, there's actually I just thought about this right now, how there's a connection to that, is if I wanted to put something down on the table and I left, the chances of me going back and being able to touch it were getting tougher and tougher because I'm in the darkness. But my eyes recognized 3 different things. When my eyes were open, even though it was pitch black, couldn't see a single thing. My body was able to get it almost 90% of the time.
Knew where it was.
I knew it was. But what the funny thing is, when I brought a mask with me, and I put the mask on, did the same thing. It was all like, it was kind of disoriented. Still dark, but I couldn't do it. And then the final one was when I closed my eyes. And when I closed my eyes, my brain basically said, I'm not stupid. I know you're closing your eyes. And so with the Black Panther, it's almost one of those things with those eyes. It's, you can see when your eyes are open, even in the darkness. But if you close your eyes, you're still going to be blinded.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So how does this like life lesson learning experience show up on Monday morning when you're speaking or when you're training? How have you incorporated this experience and this like awakening of sorts into your career?
Because it's so recent. There's pros and cons to that. I mean, the first one I had to do was I realized I had to create more micro habits. Right. So how it does is my career, especially in the work that we do, sometimes it's so blended, is I remove my television. And so where that mask was is actually where my TV used to be. So it's a reminder of, okay, here's how you stay on the right track, because what you do off the field also doesn't help you on the field. Mm-hmm. So really making sure that I focus on that. The challenge with going back to work, and I didn't realize this, is how much conditioning is out there. Like every single moment, how are you being conditioned by those word, by the expectations, and it's just so much is coming at you. But what I've been able to do is that I've now been able to protect it better. It's just caused me to get more people within my tribe that get that, right? So the number one thing is, I'll say, it's allowed me to identify people in my tribe, right? Like minds.
Going back to Oregon,
right? To be a high performer, like it's getting tougher. When you come back and you're aware of things, it makes it tougher. So getting that tribe strong. And then 2 is in the work situation. Like I said, I work at a big tech company, one of the biggest. You can Google them if you want to figure out who they are.
You can Google. Okay.
But it's, you start to notice how many of us are just navigating, as you say, in our head. And realizing, especially what's happening around the world today, overseas, housing market, right? Wherever you're putting your money, your aging parents, there's so many things that are happening. Is everybody's going through something right now, but we already know we make decisions from our heart. And I'm working with the sales org, really. And so how can we add in more of the heart work into this work? Because that's really what people are experiencing right now. When you're talking about AI, is either you have people that are in the camp of saying, I'm using it every single day. Some people have been like, and some people have been like, that's the next Terminator. But at the end of the day, it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the heart one here. And that's where I've been trying to really focus on it. But there's obviously some resistance. Like, we got to get this done. We got to do this. We got to do that. I'm like, no. No. Let's connect with your heart, because that's the challenge. It's not the reason why it's hard for somebody to connect with somebody else's heart is because they haven't done the work on their own heart. So sometimes it's a little bit of some life coaching. Sometimes it's about like, let's get you centered. How do you feel in this moment? oh, yeah, now you can understand what that other person may be feeling like.
Well, I have two thoughts for that, Coach. I agree with the heart. I think we should spend more time in our hearts every single day. I think you have more passion comes from your heart, not from your head. So even if you look at Olympians, the ones that are really, really successful, they're engaged and aligned and connected with their heart. They have to be because they've overcome so much adversity. They go 4 years between Olympics. They have to qualify every single time. There's always a young whippersnapper coming up that's a little bit more, that was born on third base or had a little bit more athleticism, natural ability that you got to compete with. And then I think the other part of it is we never talk about being. We talk about doing. Everybody's a doer. What do you do? What do you do? What did I describe when I introduced you? My goodness, you got like 10, 12 things you do. And I've seen through other sources, you're unscripted, you're unbranded. You do everything, right? So it's like, it's about who you are and who you be, not what you do. And our whole society is built on, what do you do? Thoughts?
I'm so on board. We often ask the question, I have a book that's called The Next Right Move, Starting Strong to Being the Who You Want to Be. And the changes that when you answer that question, not the what you want. For example, there was a moment where I wanted to lose 20 pounds. And I was being, I was yo-yoing back and forth, going to the gym. But I realized when I said, well, the who that I want to be is who? I want to be someone who finishes workouts. I want to be someone who finishes workouts. So what do you think happened? I went to the gym the following day. I want to do like push-ups, sit-ups, and dips. So I do the push-ups and I sit-ups and dips. And I remember I wanted to do 10 sets. And I remember I got to set number 5 and my body was like, yep, I'm good. That was a good workout. I got my what. I knew what I wanted. I'm working out. I knew why I wanted to be there and when. But the only W I was missing was the who that I need to be. And so at that moment, what I do is I turned around and I finished that workout. And we do not have any control over tomorrow. At all. We don't. The only decisions we have is the who we want to be and the moment by moment actions that we take from that. So I'm 100% on board. I love that. I think it's a question that all of us need to really start asking ourselves during these times.
Well, I'm older than you. And one thing that I can tell you that happens when you start going to the gym as you get older is you go, I could do that. I know I could if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to do it today because I know I could. And you start taking credit for what you could do and not what you are doing and who you are being. And so over time, there's an erosion of willpower. And then when you got to answer the bell, you don't have it because you haven't done the hard stuff to actually build up your endurance so that you could do it when you needed to do it.
Yeah.
And so I've been on this journey with my boys where they would challenge me and I would go to answer the bell and I couldn't answer the bell. And I was humbled because I'm like, I used to be able to do that. And I fell into that trap of what I just described where I would, I'm going to go do 5 miles on the elliptical. Well, I hit 4. I could do 5, but I'm done. I'm good. And so I think you have to take a hard look in the mirror. You have to take a hard look in the mirror and go, who am I? What is my identity? And when there's a blending of what you do and who you are, that's when it's almost like 2 concentric circles of who you are and what you do. But when they're overlapped, the sweet spot is your purpose.
Yeah.
And when you're living your purpose, it's almost like being in the dark retreat again. You've got harmony. You can block out distractions. They're not even distractions. You don't have to block them. You just don't give them any. You don't give them any credence. It's like, I'm good. All right, my man.
I love your analogies, man. I love them. They're clear. They're good. I'm like, you have a piece of paper. I wish I had a piece of paper. I'd be taking notes as well. So,
man, I've been taking notes on you, my man. I've been taking notes on you. Okay, so I want to ask you a question that has 2 answers. One is in your athletic career. Because when you're young and you're aspiring to be an athlete, college athlete, pro athlete, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter the sport. You have disappointments, you have rejections, you have failures. What was yours? Describe for me and for us what you were trying to do and what happened.
Okay. Bringing back memories. It was 2008 Beijing Olympics. Actually, this is why I kind of knew Anthony is I just tore my ACL playing football. I played a year of football at the University of Oregon. And I injured it so bad that I was so fed up with sports that I didn't even want to get it repaired because I'm done with sports. So what ended up happening was I ended up actually meeting a friend. He says, hey, have you thought about training for the Olympics? And at this point, I was 40 pounds overweight. And I'm like, nah, not exactly that best fitness. But I decided to do it, right? So I came back to University of Oregon and I started training again. So in my mind, you have to think about this where this starts from. I'm coming from a point about torn ACL, done, finished with sports, have no interest, don't want to do this, 40 pounds overweight, but now deciding, okay, I'm going to do it. My heart says I should. So I kind of train and we go out through the year and all of a sudden I have, there's this qualifying meet for Nigeria. So I was going to run for my parents' home country of Nigeria. And I was living in Oregon at the time and they said, well, there's these meets that are happening in California to help you qualify and get this time. And so I remember at that moment, hey, there's no meets in Oregon and I got to make a decision. So I literally that night went on Craigslist. And yes. I said house sale. Everything in my house is for sale. So I sold everything that I could, other than what I can fit in my Dodge Neon at that time, right? And I drive to California to sleep on a friend's couch for the next 3 weeks to try to qualify for the 2008 Olympic Games. So I ended up going to Nigeria, and they're going to do the Olympic qualifiers. This is in 2008, meaning I ran well enough. I went to California, meaning I'm still sleeping on a friend's couch. I'm in Nigeria. I've just traveled 19 hours on flight. And there's supposed to be the Olympics trials in 2 weeks. And so I'm there 2 weeks early, but they have this meet the following day, the next day that I get in. And they come up to us and say, everybody, we're actually going to be doing the Olympic trials for the 400 tomorrow morning. Mind you, I just on the 19-hour flight. First time really traveling internationally. And now they're saying the thing that I've been training for the last year after tearing my ACL and all that is this meet is tomorrow in the morning. And you have to get top 3 to go. I'm okay. I get in the blocks. I get out. I cross the finish line. I look up. I'm number 3.
My goodness.
Right. I'm number 3. I'm like, what? They take me in. They take me in. And they're like, I'm turning around Nigeria, calling my coach back home. I was like, I made the Olympics. I qualified. I can't believe it. The story, like I said, the story of tearing my ACL. I'm done with sports. Don't have it. Sleeping on my friend's couch. Right. And so what ends up happening is, so I eat we're touring around. We got this other meet that we want to try to qualify at. And then the next day, we have to travel back from Egypt to Nigeria to go. That's where we're doing some of the training. And it was my first time overseas, really. And all I wanted was a cold glass of water. That's all I wanted. Because I've always been drinking bottled water. So what I do, I go to the bar. I said, can I get a cold glass of water? So it comes in with a whole bunch of ice in it. I get it. I drink it. As you can probably guess what happened in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
My stomach was on fire. My body was beaten down. So the next day I'm traveling sick and I got to go then to Nigeria the next day to actually, just rest up. I land and we get in. I get to the hotel. Another knock comes at the door. And they said, and I'm sick as a dog. And they said, that whole Olympic trials thing that we did that was going to select the team? We've actually decided we're going to redo it.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God.
We actually say we're going to redo it. I'm like, what? Oh. Except now, instead of 2 rounds, it's going to be an open meet with 40 heats each. So that means instead of 1 round, I got 6 rounds. So I go in, I go through the first round, make it, go to the second round, make it. But you can guess what happened on that third round.
Yeah.
I didn't make it. And so at that moment,
poor sleep, bad, you were set up for failure there.
Yeah. So but what happened was, and then I go back home to where I found out in the meantime, my roommate got in trouble for something and had to get evicted from the house. So when I came back, it went basically coming back to the United States with really no money, how do I say it? No money, really no place to live, and moving to a different city. Right?
Mm.
And so it's having that feeling of knowing how it feels to have it, but not have it. But here's the win in all of this. Is I always had this narrative that I was telling myself is once I just become an Olympian, then I can be a speaker. Just when I become a Olympian, then I can be some work with Nike. When I become a speaker or when I get, Olympian, then I can do it. But the funny thing happened is I have some friends that did the Olympics, came back the next day, celebrated and excited. But the world didn't change. Like that day after effect, win the Super Bowl, win an event, day after effect, you still got to live. But they thought, you know what? What I need is I think I need a second Olympics. So what did they do? 4 years training, got that second Olympics. Then what happened? Woke up the next morning, the world was still the same. So in some ways, my entrepreneurship journey started the moment I decided I'm going to train for the Olympics. My life was going one way, 40 pounds overweight, not doing what I needed to be doing, didn't even want to get my knee fixed, to saying a decision of yes, right? That then all led into, because I made that decision, missing the Olympics. I realized dude, I don't have 4 years. I'm not Olympian. I got to do this now. Realizing that I'm not an Olympian, but I still was able to do all the things that I didn't want it to do. But I didn't let when I just become this, then I can do that.
Okay, AJ. I like the review, man. What I saw you do and what I heard you say was you went all in on your big dream. Mm-hmm. You had the courage and the intentionality and the work ethic and all those things to put yourself in a position to go chase that dream that's probably been percolating in your mind your whole life, especially in your track life.
Yeah.
And so even though your circumstances didn't match up with your dream, meaning you were 40 pounds overweight, you were, not fully recovered from an ACL and all those types of things, you went for it, which is awesome. And what you shared with me, which is more important than that, is that you got rid of your if-then story. Mm-hmm. You had an if-then, then that. So it's if-then, that story. Mm-hmm. And all of us have it. If this happens, then I'm going to do that. Well, why don't you just do that? Mm-hmm. Which most of us don't. And so from my perspective, everybody puts a barrier, or you're a hurdler, they put a hurdle, right? Yeah. Between the starting line and where they want to be or where they want to go. That's self-imposed, that only if this happens, I'm worthy of pursuing that. And feedback.
It never stops.
And that we do it all the time. In fact, how many hurdles are there typically? 10, 12? 10. Okay. So you know what? What is really interesting about life is that you've been a hurdler, but everybody's a hurdler. Everybody in your audiences are hurdlers. They just don't know it. And it's not on a track. It's in their mind, and they keep putting hurdles in front of their dreams and in between where they're at now and where they want to be.
I love the hurdle example. And because sometimes just because a hurdle is there, right? Because sometimes I've worked with so many people and I've never met a person that has become rich enough, strong enough to never have problems again. So problems are always going to happen. And so what I look at is I love that example. It's like you have that hurdle in your way. And you see some hurdlers that still jump over that hurdle and nick it a little bit. You have some that kind of hit it hard. But even though you hit the hurdle, doesn't mean that the race is over. Doesn't mean you got to not be aggressive anymore. So some people are like, oh, I hit it. Like, what is our resiliency? You have somebody A challenge comes. They try to solve it like, oh, that was too hard. The person that kind of nicked the hurdle that made a big drama show. Or you can say the other one, yeah, the challenge came. But my mental toughness, I'm going to push through that and be aggressive, is the one that ends up winning the race. But that's actually not another one. The last one is also the one that's the most consistent. So when you're doing that thing, it's really what really makes you better in the race. It's not being bigger or stronger, but it's actually who can be the most consistent. Even when the world comes at you, even when your body's tired, even when your wife just left you, even when this, like, no. Stay consistent. What I believe is the hardest skill in the world to learn today.
Discipline and consistency are definitely difficult. I would add something to that, Coach. What I see happening is I call them scoreboard watchers. And if you coach or witness a youth sports game that has a scoreboard, like a basketball game, they always are watching the scoreboard. And when they're way ahead, they get really selfish because, hey, I'm going to get mine. When they're way behind, they get selfish because, hey, we're not going to win, so I'm going to get mine. And when they're in that area where it's competitive, they're uncomfortable. The coaches are uncomfortable. The players are uncomfortable. The players on both teams are uncomfortable. And somebody is going to do something to become comfortable. And sometimes that's taking shots they don't normally take so that the other team gets ahead. Maybe not play deep, take a risk on playing defense so the other team gets ahead. Because I would rather them be ahead than us be in a real game.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you start going back to that consistency thing, I look at it as, can you divorce yourself from expectations? Can you detach yourself from future results? So when you're running, going back to that metaphor, running of the hurdles, and you nick one of the hurdles, it might slow you down a little bit. But if you're in your heart and you're being who you are, you're going to get there. And you're not going to compare to getting there when you thought you would get there. So I've got to have my master's by 25. I got to have my first million by 30. Yeah. I got to have all these things. Maybe you don't get your first million till you're 70. But that's what it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. You didn't quit.
One of the messages we got in the Darkness Retreat, when me and that guy were in the water together, is we had different experiences, but we still had some of the similar takeaways. And so one of the takeaways or his experiences, like for him to pass time, what he did was he would walk 1,000 steps. He'd walk 1,000 steps, and that's how he'd pass time. But he realized after a while that all he was focusing on was getting to the 1,000, but ignoring the 999 steps in between. Meaning his happiness only came from that one final destination, ignoring the process along the way. Mine was the same. I had a similar experience. So when it brings it to this example, when it brings it to this story, is how do we just, focus on the present moment feeling, right? The process versus the destination. And so that's what it looks like. What is the destination? But we focus so much on that destination, that person that was a millionaire by 70 might have ignored all the years that he was with his family and all the other stuff that happened before that moment and got excited for one day, but realized what's going to happen, like we all go through. You're going to wake up the following day and realize the world did not change. It's still the same. So you were delaying something for 70 years to wake up and realize, oh, this is all the same.
I agree with that. And I think that that genuine joy, happiness, and peace comes from being in the moment by moment of the journey. Yes, you're headed in a certain direction. You're pursuing a certain goal, but it's in the step by step, moment by moment journey where I feel like that's where the peace is. And if you can't enjoy that time, you're going to be a miserable human being. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete, an entrepreneur, a business person. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got to embrace the journey. And guess what? To embrace the journey, I'm just Throwing it out there. It's got to be more about who you are than what you do.
Mm-hmm. But to get to the who you are, you can't chat GPT and get that answer. The only way to find it is you actually have to be still with yourself. You have to sit with yourself. That's the only way you can get to the who you are. But people are focusing on what's the next step? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I'm following here. I'm going there. Not realizing you haven't actually answered the most fundamental question.
Let's take a detour here for a second and figure out or brainstorm on how can people, what tactics can people do without going to a 120-hour dark retreat?
Yeah.
Figure out who they are.
Okay.
Meditate. Cold plunge.
No, I mean, I want to get away from just sometimes those biohacking, because they're going to think about, hey, if I just make my bed in the morning, then I'm going to figure out who I am. If I jump in this water, then I'm going to find something. No, stop using that's what the Darkness Retreat teaches you. Remove all those shortcuts. Stop delaying the real fundamental thing you need to ask yourself this question. Don't do all those things. Just sit there with yourself, by yourself. And I'm saying this. First thing I would say is, it's going to sound kind of frou-frou, you're everything and nothing, right? Meaning you can create whatever. So the first thing is write down on a piece of paper, who are you? What's important to you? List it out, even the people that are important to you. I do this activity called Unbranded, where I'll have people for 5 minutes list out all the things that make you who you are. List out all of them. Might be where you're from, maybe the schools you went to, mottos you live by, literally list it out. They'll get to 40 things, 40 items. And this is going to all happen in 30 minutes. And then I asked 3 questions. Which items on your list do you feel you share most to the world? Which items on your list do you feel like you share least to the world? And which items on your list do you wish you shared more to the world? Right? So this is basically just going introspective, like a funnel. Get big with all the things that make you who you are. Let's funnel it out. What parts of these and what kind of buckets are these falling into? And then the most challenging one is I'll give it away. In reverse order, I'll have them mark off one by one. But I don't tell them that's happening. They'll literally mark one by one in reverse. It might be I'm going to mark this off because I did this 20 years ago, but I don't do this today. So you mark it off. So you continue to mark it off. And you start to notice as you go through with it, something happens. You start to realize they get away from the head and start getting to the heart. They're I can't mark this thing off. But it's just a word on a piece of paper. What's so hard about crossing off a word? And there's something here, there's a story here. It forces them to feel. It forces them to go from the head into the heart until they get to the moment where actually the final one is, you get to your final one. And you finally understand what is the thing that's most driving me right now. For me, it was actually, my daughter was number 2, and getting out of my own way was number 1. So out of all the things on the list, I had 50 items on my list, all these words, Oregon, athlete, speaker, and I came down to my daughter and getting out of my own head. When I crossed off my daughter, obviously that was painful, but I then told myself, if I'm not able to get out of my own head, I can't be a good father, a good parent, or a good friend to anybody. And so a lot of the work that you see me do is about how to get out of my own way. So now I'm able to understand, this is why you are so into personal development and mindset and controlling the mind, is because you now are aware of something that you've been ignoring for so long. And I was able to find this out in 30 minutes. What's also more powerful is not actually doing this activity for yourself. We're doing the same activity for the people that you know and having them go through it. And then you realize that everybody has a different list. Everybody has a different order. Everybody has a different number 1. Or if they have the similar number 1, the story behind it is completely different. So you better understand yourself, and it helps you also better understand others as well.
I love that. And my perspective on that is that when you get in your heart, it's all introspective, it's all internal, and it's how you can touch. Let's say you list 40 things. That one is the connector between the other 39. It touches all 39 of them. And without it, it's like the connector. The other 39 don't have harmony without the one. Mm-hmm. And the other part of what I got out of what you just shared was, we have so many programs, loops, constructs that we gain from our youth, from our parents, from our friends, from the school system, all the way up. The media, social media now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like peeling an onion, can you take off all those layers of constructs so that you can get to the core of who you are, which is that internal purpose that you just described, which is, get out of your own head, get out of your own way.
And all modalities do this. This is what meditation is going to take you to. This is what a 5-day darkness retreat or an ayahuasca or psilocybin, this is all it is how do you not go out, but go within? And so I'm not promoting any of that necessarily, but I'm just saying is you have to do that work. You don't actually have a choice. Otherwise, you're walking around the world like this, all over the place. And so when somebody says, I don't have the time to do it, you probably are the one that needs to do it the most.
I agree with that. All right, AK, I want to thank you very much. I just looked at our clock. This has been an awesome conversation, great podcast. For those people out there that want to find your book, hook you up for speaking, get your coaching, all those types of things, let the world know where you're at.
Yeah, you can find me. Well, I'm the only Ak Ikwuakor, I think, on the planet. So it's an easy search. But outside of that, you can go to coachak.com. That's my website, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Easy to connect and have those conversations. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and all those other places as well.
AK, thank you so much. Hey, it's Craig Doman, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a pro mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.